Hello and welcome to the second video in the HobbyKing Paramotor setup series. Now in the last video we actually put this thing together, so I'll put a link here so you can go and have a look at that. This video is more about how we're going to set up the radio and how that's all going to work so that we can get everything ready to put the canopy on. The main canopy is going to connect onto these rings, and then these arms are going to take the place of the arms of the pilot that would be normally pulling the brake lines to either turn or to flare the canopy to brake. Now there is a little bit of work to do to set up the model on the radio. I'm actually going to share the model that I'm creating for my Taranis radio that's behind me, so we'll grab that in a minute. The Taranis radio is dead simple to set up. There are some really great links in the HobbyKing manual as it is today to the gentleman that helped design this thing for HobbyKing. His version of doing the radio is a little bit more complicated, but I've simplified it for those of you that might struggle to follow along with that, because it can be a little bit simpler. So first of all, let's go and have a look at that model setup. Again, the link is down below if you want to download it for your Taranis radio. And then once we've got the radio set up, let's plug everything into the receiver and I'll show you how to get it ready. So in the next video, we can actually prep the canopy, make sure the brake lines are all set, and then connect everything up and we're ready to fly. So onto the computer, onto Companion, let me show you how to set up your radio model. So let me show you how I've set this model up, basic in the radio, and then we'll go onto the bench and we'll actually start plugging things in. The actual setting of the controls, as I've just described, is a little bit different from a regular plane or wing or something else that you've flown, in that the throttle is going to act as the elevator, giving you more or less pitch, which will kind of raise or allow the paramotor to sink. And you're also going to use the aileron in a standard way to left and right, and the elevator is going to work as the brake. So pulling the elevator down is going to pull both of the brakes at the same time, which will kind of flare the canopy and slow everything down. Useful for coming into land or in particular conditions when you're flying. So let me just open this up and show you how this works. So if I jump into the simulator, throttle is, surprise surprise, going to be the throttle. And then the channels 2 and 3 are going to be the individual controls for the two brakes that we're going to attach to the gondola in a minute. And the way it works is that moving it, just make sure it only moves in one orientation, moving it to the left pulls down one arm, moving it to the right pulls down the other arm, which is how it kind of works. Pulling it back drops both of the arms, so that's like pulling the brakes in the paramotor. So that is the kind of trickier bit. The other thing, of course, is we do need to be able to trim the model in flight. There will be a slight bias to one side, as the rotation of the prop is going to try and spin the gondola and turn it the whole model in the other direction. So that is still going to be able to be done with the aileron control here. So as we move that around, then you can see here that we can kind of trim it. Other people have set this up with trims for the individual arms. That's probably slightly better way, but it's an awful lot more involved. Similarly, to trim the brakes themselves, we have that ability using the elevator trim. And I think for first-time paramotor pilots, this is a little bit easier to understand. But if you want to, you could add an individual trim to both sides. And I would probably use, on a Taranis radio, the kind of the shoulder buttons, the shoulder sliders to actually do that. But let me show you how I've done this. So if I just jump out of here, the inputs are regular, apart from there's a special curve, and curves is the secret to all of this. I'll show you that in a second. So there's throttle, aileron, elevator, and rudder, and the mixes is really, really simple. We only have the throttle mix, which is channel 1, and then throttles 2 and 3 are going to be the left and right brake. So the curves that we're going to need to set up in order to do this, there's 3 of them. The first one, this is the left brake, and it looks like that. So that means that it will only move in one direction. This is the right brake, which is the kind of mirror image of that one. So you got left brake, right brake. And the third one is for the elevator. And the way that works is that when the elevator is moved down, you want the brakes to be pulled both of them at the same time, but if you push the elevator up, you don't want anything to happen, and in that kind of neutral middle position, you don't want it to work. So what that means, again, just to kind of show you, have the extra bits at the side, there we are. So as I pull the elevator down, they both drop, but if I push the elevator up, nothing happens, and that's because of that flat bit. So normally the curve would look something like that, but what we're doing is we're setting each of these points to 0, and that's going to work perfectly. So to set it up, what we've done is we've gone first of all into the inputs. We've added that elevator curve that we've got to the elevator input. If we do it here, then it's done once, and everywhere we pick that up, it's going to be okay. So that then means that the elevator works in that direction. Okay, and that's the only thing we have to do in the inputs. The rest of the stuff we'll do in the mixes because we want the individual curves for the left and right brake. So what we have here in the left brake, surprise, surprise, we connect it to the left brake curve. We have 100% of it. Everything is all good. So if we simulate that, there's the left brake. That's what that does. So as we move it into the right position, nothing happens. But through that half of the travel, you get 100% of the movement, and we need that to control the steering. So that's why this curve for the left brake, it does kind of gives you 100% of the channel value when it's over to that side. When you are moving it over this side from here to here, you get 100% of the value. Similarly with the right brake, and the right brake is added into the mixes in here, so the aileron weight is set up so the right brake is added, and all that means is it just means that rather than the aileron control each of the brakes throughout its movement, it kind of only affects one of them at each side, and that's the way that we want it to be. Pulling it back and moving it around means we can move the brakes in however we want to, and we can use the trims as normal. Now in terms of the outputs, where we're going to plug everything in, because we're just about to go in the bench, we're going to need the throttle into output 1 on the receiver. We're going to put the left brake into channel 2 and the right brake into channel 3. Now what we'll probably find is that one of these is going to have to be reversed on the radio, and that's entirely expected. So personally I would take the arms off the model so that the arms don't smash into the bar at the top or some of the cables underneath. So let's go onto the bench and I'll show you the next step to get this all ready to attach the canopy. So here we are on the desk. The model is on the radio as we have just set it up and seen it in Companion. So now we need to plug everything together. So as explained, we've plugged in all of the connections. So channel 1 is going to be throttle, and then channels 2 and 3 are going to be the left and right brake. But before we put the arms on, finally, we just need to make sure they're moving in the right direction. Because if they're not, then potentially the arm can hit this top bar here, which is where the canopy is going to connect. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, let's power up the model. Prop is not installed for safety. The prop is one of the last things we're going to do. Let's power it up. So that means we're all tickety-boo, we have a green light, we're connected, and you can probably hear everything moving. So let me just put these on in the middle position just to see the direction that they're moving. Okay, so hopefully you can see that in the image. As I move the stick left, that's supposed to go down, and then move the stick right, that goes down. So the way it's working is this channel is reversed. So let's just take that off just to make sure that we don't do anything that's going to upset it when we reverse the channel. Let me just go into the outputs, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to reverse it here. There we go, on the radio. So now if I put that into the middle position, and this isn't where it's going to end up, this is just us simply making sure everything's working in the right direction. There we go. Now if I put the radio to the right, that side goes down or that side goes down. Perfect. And pull it together, they both go down. So that is all good. So what we need to do then is we need to attach these arms so that the arms themselves are slightly proud of this top bar. So as we're looking down the top bar, hopefully you can see that, I'm actually going to put these on so that it's about 1 centimetre proud of the top bar. So now we know that's where it's going to be. Let me screw that in. And by having it that high, it means if we move the control, we get full travel and it's not in danger of hitting anything up here. And similarly, it's not going far enough at the bottom to catch any of the other pieces. So on the other side, I'm actually going to position the arm and try and eyeball it to get it exactly the same. That's pretty close actually. So let's just do the screw up on that side. There we go. And if one of them is slightly out, then just use the sub trim on this part of the radio just to get them so they're exactly the same. But mine, hopefully, I don't know if you can see this. I'm trying to get it in a position. So hopefully you can see they're proud by just a little bit. Move the radio out of the way because it's going to be shouting down the mic. So they look like that. So now if I move them all the way down, they move the same level, left and right. We are now ready for the canopy. So last thing I do is just set your failsafe on your radio so that it is in this position, and let's go into the next video. Join me in that one where we'll actually unpack the canopy, because now we have all this set, we can attach the A risers to these little P clips, or whatever you want to call them, on here, and then we can also set and attach the brake lines to these two things we've just set up. There's no point touching the canopy until all this is done, because all you're going to do is you're in danger of accidentally tangling the lines. So let's do that next. Thanks for watching the video and watching right to the very end. You can find me in all the usual places on social media, and if you like the video and like what I'm doing here, then hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon too. If you really like what I'm doing, you can go the extra mile and become one of my Patreons for access to me directly for support, and also giveaways and regular updates too. If you're looking for particular content, then check out the playlist. I organise all of my videos into playlists, so if you're looking for a particular topic, you can find everything here. If it's called Introduction To, it's designed to start very simply and build on that simple introduction to teach you all about it. If it's called For Beginners, then that is really aimed at people who are brand new to that part of the hobby. You can also search on YouTube for anything that you're interested in using the search function at the top. So iNav Painless 360 will find all of my videos and even the playlist around iNav. So thanks again for watching, and happy flying.